All right, guys, back in my room, not in the sweet spot today because I had to give it up for Fernando. You might recognize Fernando from my channel. He's a local dealer for both the Linkwitz and the Key. Two amazing speakers. Definitely check out that video. It's probably about over a year ago.
About a year,
yeah. So Fernando has been wanting to come by and hear the Bach and got to sit in the sweet spot today and thought we'd get... Tell me what's going on new with the Keys and the Linkwitz, but also what did you think of the Bach?
Amazing. Truly amazing. I think it will become ubiquitous going forward.
Yeah, I mean...
Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. That's the problem, right?
That's the common, at least with everybody that's bought it and a lot of people that come back here. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you got to hear it because you have products that are state-of-the-art. Linkwitz and Key, those are products that I think would work really good with the Bach as well because they have the ability, especially the Key, very directional speaker, high technology based. And you've always heard DSP done right. You've used Accurate and other
audio lens, focus fidelity.
Yeah, so you know what DSP can do, high IQ audiophile. So you're the type of person I like to get back here and hear what it can do. Anything in particular stood out? I mean,
just the balance. This is a smallish room, but it gave the room. You like move the sidewalls.
Right, make them disappear, kind of.
6 feet, yes, yeah. and a lot of placement, music that you might be used to hearing coming from the center of a speaker spread out. Mm-hmm. So both from a left to right perspective and a front to back.
Right,
which it's pretty amazing.
Which is what Crosstalk essentially does. It corrupts that imaging and then it makes it more dense in the middle because of the crosstalk. So yeah, and we were able to A/B turn it on and off, and it's pretty
was very evident,
very drastic, So
kind of like turning your listening to stereo, and then you have your old receiver has the mono button, and you hit the mono.
Yeah, all of a sudden
completely changes. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so what's also cool, and I'm going to go into this in more detail on the ORC, the optimal room correction, but we were able to get different measurements for different people, frequency response, and how that in the same room, same gear, everything the same, we hear differently. But still, that's what this can do, is still correct for that on top of things. So that's the next level that's coming, guys. But what's coming, you were telling me there's new Key.
There's a new Key offering, a Key 7 speaker, which is a somewhat smaller version of the Key 3, stand mounted. It's also wireless, completely wireless.
Really?
There's an option for that.
Oh, wow.
As well as using the key control, so you can go either way.
But it just needs a power cord into it.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's also it performs the same steering logic for the bass.
Okay.
Just to about 100 hertz, so not quite as low as the Key 3 or the Key 3 BXT.
Yeah,
variant.
The Keys are very good for difficult rooms because it can kind of negate the room issues.
You can put it, within 4 inches of a sidewall or back wall.
Right.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility in mounting or setting them up. So.
Yeah. So I'm anxious. You look like you're going to be getting the Bach, and then I'd love to hear them on the Keys.
Definitely.
We're talking about two super high end level sophistication of DSP combined, and it should be a match made in heaven. So can't wait to do that. So I'll be coming by your place again soon.
Yeah. Well, and it'll be easy to transport too. Well, never mind. I'll have the Bach by then. So, yeah. So they're early next year. They'll be available. In the US.
And you'll have it probably in time for the ORC, the optimal room correction feature, to be also in the Bach. So we'll be able to test that. So just a nice little preface for you guys to get reacquainted with Fernando. Again, if you want Keys or Linkwitz, you basically have home demos.
Yes.
They just what is your website, or do you
It's perfectstereo.com.
Perfectstereo.com. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming by, Fernando.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Okay.
Okay, I said Darla could be incognito and put on some glasses. But I said I wanted her to give her impression of the Bach when it was in the room. And I said, don't feel like you need to make fancy talk. Just say it like it. What changed for you? So that's the question. What changed for you?
I feel like the music is alive. Like I can feel the sound moving through the room. That's the biggest difference. It's like being at Jazz Alley with my eyes closed. The different things that I hear. I can even hear when they clank their, like by accident, they hit their sticks together. But the biggest difference is it feels alive. That's the only way I can describe it. It's definitely like 3D. It's around.
The other thing too that people always say, well, I had a center image or I had a sound stage, which I did. By all measures, it sounded, I mean, pretty darn good here. But this just seems to take it to a different.
Yeah, it's different. It's dynamic, is how I first described it to Bob. It's dynamic, and the more I think about it, it's just alive. The music is alive. Where before, there was still a center image, there was still a big sound stage. The music was right here, but now you're just almost.
It gives you
it's just different.
The extra spatial cues puts the icing on the cake for me. It's hard to describe to somebody. That's the one thing I wish I knew how to. When I tell people I have this, it's like, what do you say?
Yeah, and it definitely freaks the dog out because.
Oh, the dogs are
They think someone's here, and they get all excited when certain songs come on.
Yeah,
Before it didn't even bother them at all.
No, when I played Uma Guma, was it Gretchen Meadows?
Yeah.
When the bees started flying, they started going crazy.
Yep. They thought it was in the room. And then there's this counting one that we were doing, and that was another one. They were looking for the people. So that was a big difference.
Okay, I'm going to officially hang up the video. That's Darla's first video. And of course she said, I haven't taken a shower, put on deodorant. I said, none of that matters.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a happy holidays. A little hoarse. Been celebrating too much, I guess. Thank you guys again. The Toys for Tots donations and that party was a lot of fun. Beatles cover band. Lots of parties around town, family parties and stuff. So hope you guys are having a great holiday. I wanted to get 2 videos out before I leave for Vegas for New Year's Eve. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. That's where a lot of more personal stuff I post. Fun stuff. Shows why I get hoarse sometimes. But this video is going to be very important. I wanted to get it out because it entails my product of the year. Oh, by the way, I dressed up this is a $10 Party City hat, but you can get these hat bands. Those of you that are going to Dallas, you got to rock a cowboy hat if you come to that Dallas show. So a little tip for getting yourself a cowboy hat on the cheap. And also I'm tired, so I'm wearing sunglasses, the bright lights. Sorry, guys. Anyway, that's one reason I decided to film this video today, because it's going to include testimonials, not listening to me about the Bacch, but I wanted to showcase testimonials that are even longer than all the countless ones I've shown on the channel. When people come out here, I usually film YouTube shorts if they want to do one and give their impressions. And that's as good as anything instead of just listening to me or TED Talks by or Zooms by Edgar. We try to cover every base. You want the technical side, you want my expertise, you want testimonials. We got it all because it's a revolutionary product. There's nothing like it out there. There's no competition really for it. Yes, others in the past have tried with Crosstalk Cancellation, Carver, and Polk, but those are much more primitive, nowhere near the same type of solution. But the reason I wanted to give this my product of the year and showcase some things is to deal with, number one, there's been a lot of frequently asked questions about the Bacch. It's still a product that is not in many dealers. The margins are too low, frankly, for most dealers to carry it. And the learning curve to be able to sell it requires expertise, and Edgar's very particular. So I think 3MA locally is going to be, with their new store, it's going to qualify for being able to have it and more. And there's one new one in Dallas. There's going to be some more dealers. I'm a dealer. But
there's still a lot of frequently asked questions. People aren't encountering it as much. So I wanted to address that. I wanted to give you the testimonials, but also talk about this new optimal room correction, which is truly revolutionary. Super excited. Edgar is about this just as much as the Crosstalk Cancellation. And this is why it's my product of the year again this year, because last year I had only experienced it in November at Capital Audio Fest, and then I got the product, and it was easily my product of the year on just the Crosstalk Cancellation and the basics. But then this whole year, I learned a lot of things that make it even much more a sophisticated product and something that you can use to enhance your system. And even if you're not in the budget for the Bacch or can't afford it or whatever, this video may be helpful to you, because a lot of things I share with you, even if you don't have the Bacch, at least in part, you'll be able to maybe try it at home. Because one of the biggest frequently asked questions or preconceived notions, excuse me, has to do with DSP and being anti-DSP in the hobby. Everybody thinks, oh, don't run your digital through, or your analog through digital, or add DSP. It always is a negative. Well, these are mostly people that, number one, have either had bad experience with very poor products, or just too lazy to learn a new product, or they're scared. You know, some certain companies don't want to invest in R&D to advance technology. They don't want change. They don't want advancement. Just reselling something in a bigger chassis, fancier thing, same designs with a few different parts is good enough to, quote, advance in the hobby. And so you got to be able to have that high IQ to determine where the criticism is coming from. Have they actually had any experience with Bacch? Have they actually understood the product? Most haven't. And so one thing I wanted to address is DSP alone being added to your system. One thing you can do, you can even ask a third party like JR, who deals with the most high-end analog people. Everybody that's got both the Bacch and has used JR services runs their turntable now through the Bacch, okay? Adds a layer of analog to digital, because the trade-off, if any, is so far in the favor of using DSP in the Bacch. And again, I'm not saying all DSP is the same, but this anti-DSP thing is so primitive. If you hear people say, I don't like DSP, you know that's a low IQ audiophile. I'm just calling it out, because there is DSP in the recordings. Almost every recording you listen to has DSP. Every DAC has DSP. Almost everything you listen to isn't even bit perfect, with upsampling, conversions to this, that, and the other formats and all this kind of things. You are listening to DSP, okay? In almost any system with any content, you're listening to DSP. So to say, I don't like DSP would mean that you would have like 3 recordings and an all analog rig. So please, you cannot fall for these primitive generalizations. And I've got an open challenge. I'll make this challenge right now. Anybody that is anti-DSP, I can go to their house and not only better the performance on objective metrics, whether it's frequency response, impulse response, but we could take 10 people before and after and let them judge what's better or worse. Because one of the problems we have in this hobby is, yeah, we've got this audiophile jargon, which helps us explain what we're hearing, warm, bright, musical, all this stuff. But first of all, it's different for every person, and there's no defined definition for every one of these terms. And in a lot of cases, people just use this as a crutch and a facade for their lack of understanding of how these words actually can translate to certain things in the measurements. Excuse me, and how DSP can actually change a system from bright to warm to musical. It's not a genie in the box that you buy, that these companies have a little genie in there. Always, this brand has musical sound with their DAC or amp or speakers. There's no genie in there doing. They are doing things that, if you put it on a metric, certain metrics can change, and that's how they know whether it's going to be warm, bright, whatever. And you can control that as well. What happens with these anti-DSP people, they're fine with it when it's in a box or in the recording studio hands. But when it's in their hands and they have to control it, that's when they screw up, and then they blame the technology instead of themselves. And I get it. It takes thousands of hours to understand. You have to read books. You have to have actual tangible experience with DSP to do it right. What's being solved, though, is why I'm mentioning this as the product of the year. Optimal room correction is going to do it for you now and take into account, excuse me, your ear pinna and how much that impacts what you hear. Because one of the frequently asked questions and noteworthy things I learned this year is that everybody that comes to my room has a different frequency response. Same room, same gear, everything's the same. We hear differently. It's different results in the measurements. That's because of our ear pinna and even how we sit in a chair or lean or move. And when we do move, it changes things. So this is what is a huge takeaway of the Bacch that I didn't even know last year when I gave it product of the year, that makes it a product of the year for this year, because this alone allows you to understand how we hear differently, but also allows you to realize that frequency response and how you hear from two speakers shouting at you and hitting your ear pinna is different than a piano at an angle over here in real life. And that's what our brain tells us it's fake, when you're getting a different frequency response from your ear pinna than you are from a real life instrument omnidirectionally providing that sound. Now, with optimal room correction, Edgar has figured out how to address the ear pinna. You don't want 100% correct for it because, again, you're used to a piano over here hitting your ear pinna and providing you the frequency response that you're used to. It's not flat, as we've seen, but it's different, at least, than two speakers shouting at you directly on axis. And so that's what needs to be slightly corrected. To give you that more realistic sound, among tons of other things. I'm just giving you the primitive version of optimal room correction that really stood out to me. And you can do this yourself if you happen to know how much your ear pinna affects it. It's usually in that, I'd say, 3 to 10K range. You can start playing with DSP in small parts in there, reducing 3 to 8K, slightly increasing 8 to 10K, and seeing if your ear pinna and your frequency response is improving, just with like Roon EQ. Just try it a little bit just to see if you are addressing what this is going to do automated. And so there's a whole another level of performance and realism possible. But getting back to crosstalk cancellation, still there's some people that don't believe that crosstalk cancellation is good. Like there's actually people that don't understand, and they've been brainwashed so many thousands of hours listening to When Hell Freezes Over, Hotel California. They're so used to a heavily dense presentation of that song on two speakers. But then if you think about it or actually watch the DVD where it was actually recorded, you can see that it's a huge stage. And what the Bacch presents when you A/B it is accurate, not and what you are used to. And say, okay, you still may like it, but just realize you like crosstalk, which is not high fidelity, okay? It is something you like, fine, but just be honest that you like something that is not more accurate and higher fidelity. And, that's fine. Don't buy the Bacch if you can't. Now, you can A/B it, and you can turn it on, off during a recording, and you can even do a slide scale if the spatial effects are too much, even though they're more realistic. If you can actually, the Bacch thinks of everything, you can actually tailor it to whatever you like, or turn it off for certain songs. But the other thing that this year showed me with the Bacch that makes it a product of the year is it's so agnostic and so wanting you to A/B that you can turn it off on the fly. But also what you can do when those mics are in your ear and you're taking the test tone sweeps, that's not all it can do. You can turn on a recorder in the Bacch and turn your room into a recording studio, and it will record how everything is going into your ear. So you can have somebody talk to you from 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, all these different positions, close to you, far from you, record it using those in-ear mics, then play it back on your two speakers, and then see that the Bacch is actually more accurate than without the Bacch, which tells you now that when you are hearing music on the Bacch, you are hearing what's in the recording. It's not a gimmick. These are primitive judgments by people that don't understand, that don't have an open mind, or just don't have the IQ to be able to, or the acumen and their taste are such that they're so used to something that's wrong that they don't know when something's right. And so this product allows you to prove it to yourself. And very few products out there, what other product on the market allows you to do that? That's why it's my product of the year. You can turn your room into a recording studio. Prove it to yourself, A/B. And before I go too much further, talking about optimal room correction, I want you to go ahead and watch these testimonials from two people. And they're two testimonials, and this is just on the crosstalk cancellation, not optimal room correction. But I wanted to give you these testimonials in addition to all the other ones I've given you, because these are two polar opposites. One of them is a very high-end, high IQ audiophile dealer here in Houston. He's been featured on my channel. Fernando, he carries the link, what's in the key, among a few other things. And great listening room. He uses accurate digital room processing. So he knows how DSP can work to your advantage. Very sophisticated in terms of his system and testing. So he was a great person to come out and be able to A/B and see for himself. And his first comment was, he didn't like it from the standpoint of not what he didn't like to hear. He didn't like the fact his first comment was, damn, now I got to spend $7,000 on the Bacch. And he's a customer now. His order is in. And you're going to hear his feedback of what he heard. And then you're going to hear another customer, the wife of a customer. Bob has been on my channel as a member in my WhatsApp group. But his wife was helping him install the Bacch and also enjoys his system as well. But you're going to hear it from a third party who's not as hardcore into it, how they're less prejudiced because they haven't listened for thousands of hours neurotically to crosstalk and think that when they hear something different that it's wrong. They don't knee-jerk think it's wrong or gimmicky. They are listening to it, which is more enjoyable, which is right to them. And so you're going to hear her impressions as well. And so those two combined should give you further comfort to what I've been telling you since last year about the Bacch. You don't have to buy it. It's not going to hurt me. Yeah, I do make some money off of it, but if you don't want to buy it from me, buy it from one of these other dealers. It's fine. You do get a lot of perks if you buy it from me, as a lot of people will tell you, and access to Edgar and some other perks. But try it for yourself. There's a 14-day free trial. No questions asked if you turn it back. But I think you will find out if you give it an open mind and you realize and prove it to yourself, is all I say. But without further ado, here's some testimonials from people other than me, and hope you enjoy.